Greetings. So this is something I noticed with the Jungian functions and in how we come up with the definitions. In the way I come up with the definitions is there's very much a consistency with Jung, but then also when it comes to SE and SI, there's a big input from Kersey and Vanderhoop, and Kersey and Vanderhoop got to the same place via different routes. So with all of the functions, with, say, who we got here? With NE and NI, you can deduce, if you were to teach somebody, an intelligent person, new to typology, if you were to tell them what intuiting is, and what extroverting is, and what introverting is, you could ask them to deduce what NE and NI were from those two principles. And you could do the same with TE and with FE. You could deduce the properties of the function from intersecting those two ideas. But you can't really do that with the sensing functions. And Vanderhoop would say the reason you can't do that with the sensing functions is that sensing is not the only factor at work in this function. And that's why he reframed it as instinct, and I call it instinct. Just as Dario changed intuition to intuiting to emphasize the fact that it's a cognitive process, a verb. So by then calling it instinct, like I said, you get more. And again, but a lot of this is within the Kersey temperament. And so my definition of SE and SI is very similar to that used by Dario Nardi and Linda Behrens. So she had a book called Dynamics of Personality Type. And in one of the appendices, she wrote about functions used in context. And she wrote about the artisan temperament. And so she was like, the needs for impact and action are best served by extroverted sensing. And the guardian's needs of belonging and something else best served by the process of SI. So also that I'm freezing a bit over here. So these aspects, say extroverted sensing, stimulation, attention, immersion in the present context, and say force sensorics, and then in the creative part of it, and the adaptation to circumstances, you can't deduce that from intersecting those things. Whereas for those other functions, for sensing, thinking, and feeling, I very much go with that deductive approach, but then also check it against empirical experience. So that's just something where it shows the influence of Kersey on Linda Behrens and Dario Nardi, and he even types people using temperament and interaction style. Now, interaction style brings me to something that I've noticed. So if we look at extroverted sensing here and these various subfunctions, and then think about how the various artisans use it, and then if we refer to the types via the interaction style, and so if we say the initiator artisan, so the in-charge artisan, so this correlates to ESTP, SETX, they are more likely to use the assertive kind of extroverted sensor. The SFP is more likely to use the creative in their predisposed roles. And harmonizer, again, the accommodator artisan, ISFP. Let's have a look at SI. Assertive, stabilize. Again, this is like the in-charge guardian, the initiator guardian, ESTJ, stabilize, make regular, make other people follow the standard operating procedure. I've just realized this is public. I was going to do this as private, then make it public afterwards. Imaginative SI. Well, you could say this goes more towards sensory imagination, as you sort of see that more with the accommodator guardian, with the ISFJ. And I'd say the harmonizing, this comfort sense and health, you get that more with the accommodator guardian. So you've seen a trend already between the accommodators tend to use more of the harmonizing subfunction, and the accommodators are one from each temperament: ISFP from the artisans, ISFJ from the guardians, INFP from the idealists, and INTP from the rationals. So let's have a look at some other suprafunctions and to see which types might use which. So world as possibilities to explore. There's more the NE DOMs. Looking at things from different points of view, maybe towards the accommodator idealist, integrating different points of view, predisposition towards that reconciler role. But you see, the thing is, all of the NPs are informing. And so you've got the interaction styles are going to be collaborative and either collaborative or accommodating, because with the various options, I think the NE wheelhouse types, they're not going to be forcing people down to one option, because it's like they see many options where you could do the A, B, C, or D. I'm not going to guide you down one route when they don't see one route as the right option. So, and all the NI ego types, NI wheelhouse types, again, the assertive kind, well, all of these are directive. So, developing, changing, initiated goals. So you got like your NTJs and your NFJs. So you can say the ENTJ and the ENFJ are more likely to use the assertive kind of NI, because that role is a directive role. Imaginative, and then a submissive aspect of NI. But again, we're looking at the influence of the patterns, the relationship between interaction style and subfunction usage, TE. Again, assertive with, and again, all TJs are directive. So the assertive kind, well, you can see that more towards the in-charge types, the initiators, ESTJ, ENTJ, TENX, TESX, creative. The practical thinking, is there an interaction style? Not really. Pragmatic compromises. There's not really an interaction style thing, relationship here, because all the TJs are directive. TI. Now, you got quite a bit of variance here with TI, because you've got all 4 interaction styles with TI. You've got the initiator, so you've got ESTP. So I'm right. Did I tend to use that though? And maybe in the moment, ESTP can assert its rights. It is right, and there's a certain arrogance in the moment that you can sort of get that with certain sports styles that are ESTP. But again, they're very right in the moment, or they might assert it for a certain effect in order to judge someone, and sort of like to pose the position to see how people react to it. It's not necessarily something that they're going to assert across many different contexts, ESTP. It's just what is asserted in the moment. Very situational, extroverted instincting. So that's going to color the way they use TI. Speculative thought experiments, thinking as someone else, imaginative, maybe more towards INTP, because just like the thought experiments, bit more intuiting going on there. Integration of theories, very INTP. And again, that's an accommodator interaction style, and part of, and Kersey had the informing types going towards reactive inquiry, and the directive types going towards proactive enterprise. Right, it's TR. Let's have a look at the interaction styles of FE. We got some variants here. SFJs informing, NFJs directive. So again, demonstrative dramatic emotions. You can sort of see that with the NFJs. Creative, there's a bit there. It's like sometimes it's used in a creative position. So when I did that one with the TE, maybe you could argue the what was it? I call it the fish's water for ENTP and ESTP, because they're using creative extroverted thinking, because the type overall is EP. ETP. Again, group harmony focused on others, where you could say they're accommodator. So you got like an ISFJ is more likely to be using accommodating group harmony FE than the more ENFJ with the demonstrative dramatic emotions, because what is ENFJ is an in-charge type. An in-charge type might be more likely to use dramatic demonstrative emotions in order to change the dynamics in groups, because they're in charge. Performing arts, but the artistic, again, that might be used as fish's water for, say, ESFP, the way they use FE. Here we go. Yeah. What else? We've got how this interplays with, say, FI. We've got here, like, for the harmonizing FI, harmonizing ethics of relations. Well, Kersey has the INFP as the accommodator idealist, predisposed to the reconciler role. So that's another thing we could look at, is look at the subfunction in relation to the predisposed role, and which subfunctions the predisposed role would draw on. So the role of reconciler of alienates, where you're sort of, you're acting as, like, say, who's called marriage guidance counselor, who reconcile and alienates. That's very much like ethics of relations, and that role is accommodating. Then you've got the imaginative aspects, but then also INFP can sort of go into good writers, same with INFJ, same with ISFP, maybe more in the visual and auditory arts for ISFP. Make good songwriters. Assertive FI, but again, all the FI wheelhouse types, all the FP types are informing. SFPs are informing. NFPs are informing. That might be because FI wants to be on the same level and find connections with people, so that might be it. So even overrides, even in SFPs, even though they've got extroverted sensor, they still want to be on the same level as people. So there might be something about that, because Behrens wrote that the directives ones is sort of like one up, one down. One person is a director, one person is a directee, if that's a word. So you can have counselor, counselee, director and directed. But with FI, if it's that part of FI that wants the connection, and like, then it's going to have to be at the same level. Right, so those are just some thoughts on the relationship between. If you have any questions, I will maybe take them. Uh, yeah, so you can see certain things there. You're integrating different points of view. Leon does that. Type Tips channel. Enneagram 9 INFP. I used to think that was impossible. I used to think that it was impossible to have a 9 and INFP because I saw the 9 is so focused on other people's positions and viewpoints. It was almost like no, you could almost say this bit. Here we go. Like the assertive part of FI is not really there in an Enneagram 9 INFP, but this part, in terms of the integrating different points of view and values and stuff, because there's sort of there can be a richness there. It's not of like my way or the highway kind of FI. Is like if they're integrating all of these different values, then in sort of a flexible hierarchy, then it was very interesting. If you go to Leon's channel, Type Tips channel, where we did an Enneagram interview with him on his how can I put this? Yeah, his the strongest Enneagram fixation in each of his centers. Yeah. And then when the 9 came out, and it was very interesting to me how you get FI with 9, because you associate FI with sort of like really knowing how you feel about everyone and everything. But in the 9, because usually associate 9 with sort of FE, and people just sort of like almost delegating their views to other people. But again, they can integrate views. I don't wish to make this too long. I've gone through pretty much just some thoughts on all of this stuff. Yeah. Right then. So I'm going to end now.